Now, I was actually exposed to social media by my students a couple of years ago. Talked me into getting on Facebook. And it's funny because I had so much resistance to this at some point. And I had plenty of people around me that had Facebook accounts, MySpace accounts. But I was totally resistant. I tend to be a very private person. I was also, I, of course, was worried about things like privacy. And I was also I just wasn't sold that this technology was good for anything other than entertainment. So what happens is during the year or during the summer, I had the pleasure, the distinct pleasure of teaching some very bright, 30 very bright high school students that come here to Charlottesville, Virginia, and I get to teach them business for 3 weeks. They're my students. I have a boot camp that I run here called the LEAD program in business. That's been at the University of Virginia for 30 years, but was founded at Wharton about 33 years ago. So it's a long-standing, very prestigious, very elite network of students, actually. And I get to be the one that teaches them when they're here in Charlottesville. And I would give them assignments and ask them to do things. And one of the things I realized with high school students is how advanced they are in manipulating images and searching the web to find interesting things. And that the basic units that they communicate in are much larger than mine. I communicate in words. They communicate in images. And so I was around them enough. I try to be very close to the students in the program, teaching them, going to dinner with them, doing town hall meetings or fireside chats with them. So I try to be very close so I get to know them because, frankly, they're just the most remarkable students I have. So I'm always very excited to see them. And I guess I'm old enough and smart enough to pay attention to what they're doing. So I'm sort of like an anthropologist. And I'm seeing the way that these students are interacting, the stuff that they're sending through. And they're showing me their websites on MySpace and all the different things that are going on. And it's blowing my mind because I'm still an email guy at that point. So one of them talked me into it. They sat me down, talked me into opening the account, and now I'm 1,500 friends strong, right? That Facebook is kind of a major thing in my life, and now Twitter and friend feed and all sorts of other gaps. Like I'm totally bought in. But there's something that goes along with that moment for me as once again coming back to a management teacher. So it was my high school students that really exposed me to social media, but that makes sense. Right? Because the high school students, these very bright students, really are my opportunity to get a glimpse of what our future looks like, what the future of American leadership is going to look like. Right? That's what I get to do. And it's one of the reasons why I consider it such a privilege to work with these students, because I learn so much from them. And the technology is really kind of what I learned. And I take the lessons that I learned from my high school students, right? And it's just the norms of their life. There is no digital divide for them. They were born into social media, right? In the same way that I was born into hip hop, they were born into social media. So there's no world before that for them. And I take the insights that I learned working with them, and I use those when I teach my college students who are 3 or 4 years older, right? Usually, third or fourth year college students, and I can blow my college students away. So just the gap between junior year in high school and junior year in college when it comes to social media and social media usage right now is a huge gap, right? That I am being introduced to social media by my high school students, and I'm introducing these techniques to my college students right now. It's very exciting, actually. But at least in college, we're still talking about an average age of 20, 21. Right? Let's fast forward to MBAs who are average 28 years old. So if I'm being introduced to the social media by my high school, my 16 and 17 year olds, and I'm introducing it to my 21 year olds, the 28 year olds, they have no idea what's going on, right? They have no idea. I absolutely can blow them out of the way by showing them just some of the most introductory techniques, the things that I was blown away by. Because obviously I was coming at this, but I was of an older generation, right? So I call that, for me, if you talk about high school, college, and MBA, those are three different generations, right? We don't need to be talking about 15 to 20 year gaps, right? With the way this technology is moving, these are three distinct generations. And what I find is incredibly interesting and a huge takeaway, and I hope other people understand this too, is the high schoolers have basically turned management education on its head. I mean, if you have the privilege that I do to work with them, you'll notice this. The MBA students are way behind. The key is, or what I try to do, is take what I learned working with my high school students and try to find a way to translate that. And it's not easy to translate that, right, for my college students, let alone MBA students. All right, so that the real knowledge, the real touchstone of knowledge isn't happening with the MBA programs and the graduate programs, right? Those programs have to catch up with what's going on with high school students. Right? That's the benefit, but that of course is also the threat, right? So when I speak about these three generations, you can see how radical that is, a change or a shift in the way that you look at power in a university. And I think that's why that's one of the reasons why there's a lot of resistance to social media coming into the classroom, at the college, and definitely at the graduate school level. And there's a lot of fear that's involved in it, and it's very understanding. Once again, I was totally alienated by this technology just a couple of years ago, so I really actually understand what it's like not to be a digital native. But I guess I also understand, now that I've at least I play one on TV, I also understand the incredible loss of potential. The incredible loss of potential from professors that don't incorporate this, that haven't learned what's going on, that still look at the world in a bricks and mortar way. Right? I understand all of the things that their students aren't getting. Right? I understand the expectations that their students don't even realize aren't being met. Right? So you have to get this in. And the way to get the Web 2.0 in is for the adults to actually listen to the children.